Chapter 1 deals with becoming a teacher. It talks a little bit about um, what teaching requires of you. On page 5, 6, and 7, there's an article called "Do You Be the Judge" that breaks it down into the good, the bad, and the ugly. So it lets you know exactly what each side of the coin is for teaching, so you might want to read that carefully if you're still on the fence about what it is you exactly want to do. Teaching requires a great deal of your time and your energy, and it's not as simple as snow days and summers off and great money. Um, and you can see from the on page 8 there's a teacher salary chart from 2006 2007, and you can see by that a lot of teachers aren't making a great amount of money. They're not becoming rich. um, in colonial days, and we'll talk much more about the history of education in a different chapter, but for the purposes of this chapter, it talks about in the colonial days, teachers were mostly female, mostly teenagers, and they had little to no education themselves. They had not gone to college, they had barely gone to high school, and they were sent to these different communities to teach. Oftentimes, they would live with the families of the students that they worked for or the communities that they worked for. There's a teaching contract on page 13 of your text that I think you'll find quite humorous. You might want to take a look at that. Some of the things that teachers were expected to do will crack you up. Teaching was not seen as a profession, and teachers were not considered high members, upstanding members of the community. They were treated as short term temporary folks. Once a female was married, she was no longer able to teach. So they only taught for a short period of time during their teen years. When I was reading this text, it brought back to my mind watching Little House on the Prairie and how Laura Ingalls Wilder was a teacher during that time period. And so, I mean, and she was very young, and she had to go take her little teacher test, and so it brought that back to my mind. You may recall doing that as well, watching those shows. In 1823, Samuel Hall created what was known as a normal school. Normal schools were basically teacher colleges, and they were about 2 years long, and it was actually the beginning of what we know as teacher preparation courses. Horace Mann, which is a name in education that you're going to hear repeatedly, he was the person who got the state to fund and to support the normal schools. And at that point, they actually started training teachers to go out and do this. And they would be paid very little money, about $75 each. So let's talk about teaching today. Teaching in today's society, teachers usually go through a 4 year university. For elementary, you're trained in all subjects. For middle and high school, you branch off into emphasis areas. You may do social studies and language arts, or you may do math and social studies, but you have to be trained specifically in those subjects before you can teach them. That's because they want you to know your content and know it very well. But for elementary, you're teaching all subject areas, so you have to get a little bit of everything. It's a very different program. There is an MAT program that's offered now where if you have a degree in, let's say you have a degree in biology, then you may decide, I can't get a job in biology, so let me go teach. So, since you have an expertise in biology and in the sciences, you can go back to school through a college like Moorhead or Eastern or Western and go through the MAT program, and you can turn that into a teaching degree. You don't have all the methodology classes, and those are the ones that actually teach you how to teach you the skills and the activities and the strategies. But they are on this premise. The MAT program is on the premise that you know your skill and you know your content knowledge so deeply that you're able to teach that regardless of those methodology courses. So, teachers go through this and they finish and they take some tests make sure that they are able to pass those tests, and then they're able to get a teaching degree. You then can go on and get a master's degree, and in the state of Kentucky, you have 10 years to finish your master's degree in order to teach. Um, if you are not able to get into a master's program because of test scores or that kind of thing, you can do what is known as a fifth year degree. In addition to that, you can get a rank 1, which is an administrative degree, or a DPP degree, which is director of pupil personnel. Sorry. Um, there's lots of different degrees, or you can get something called an endorsement. And an endorsement will let you specialize in a different area. For example, I have a master's degree in elementary education with an emphasis on special ed. That does not make me a special ed teacher. That does not make me qualified to teach special ed. It just means that I have more special ed courses than anything else while I was getting that master's degree. And on top of that, I went back to school and I got an endorsement in gifted and talented education. Um, so the endorsement allows you to teach in that other content area. Most of the time, endorsement courses are there's only about 4 courses for an endorsement. Depends on what exactly you choose to do. But that opens your job market up so that you can find a job. So if you're interested in doing a reading writing specialist endorsement, that's something you can do. There's lots of different ones out there you can try. Then there's also the National Board Certification. National Board Certification gives you your rank 1 so that you don't have to go back to school to get that additional degree, or it'll give you your rank 2. It'll give you the same pay, but you won't actually have that degree. Now, the National Board Certification will allow you to go to any state and you would still be a National Board Certified teacher. As you're making your way through your college courses and through your earning your teaching degree, you need to be thinking about the area you live in. Is that the area you're going to continue to live in? And what job openings are there here? I know that science and math positions are prevalent everywhere, especially at the middle and high school level. There's also a great need for special education teachers. But is there in your area a great need for elementary teachers? So that's something you need to be thinking about, because there won't be anything worse than finishing your degree and not being able to find a job, or needing to commute a far distance to be able to find a job near your community. That's chapter 1 in a nutshell. It basically is all about how we're prepared for teaching, what it used to be like compared to what it is today. If you have any questions about this chapter, please feel free to email me and I'll be happy to answer those. I will see you next week. Don't forget to do your introduction assignment. It is due by Sunday at midnight, or at 11:30. Sorry. Have a great week.